Okay, well, there's a bit of an overview, in case you haven't turned into one of these before, about the Horizon Post Office scandal, which is fast becoming, if not already there, the biggest miscarriage of justice in British history. I'm Lance Nielsen from the Outcast Creative. I'm co-founder of the Creative along with Dick and Tolson, founder of this channel. And it's here where we talk about stuff we're doing with the Outcast, as well as other things like films that I like and things that I've seen and theatre productions that I've been to see. But today we're actually talking about our own one. So if you want to accuse us for a bit of nepotism, that's absolutely fine. It is our channel. So I think we're allowed to occasionally promote ourselves as well. Now, we've got a very important guest coming with us today who I've been wanting to interview for absolutely ages, because this woman is actually the woman who caused me to write this play, though she may not be completely familiar with the story as to how that came about. We'll find out in a minute. But before I do that, I've got one of the newest members of the Outcast Creative. She is a force of nature, a positively meteorite landing on Earth. And I don't mean that in a cataclysmic end of all life type way, but that may yet happen. Roz Carpenter, who's our assistant stage manager on the production, and like both of the stage managers, they're also understudies in case we have to cover any actors who are poorly. And Roz has been doing a bit of that for us in rehearsals, and will do a little bit for us on stage in 9 days. Are we going up in 9 days?
Yeah, off the top of my head. Yeah, it must be 9 days. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, Roz. Just tell people a little bit about yourself quickly and how you came to be involved in the production of False Accounts. And just so you know, we've got Mark Kelly in the chat, who is also a former Subpostmaster who we interviewed before, who's tuning in. We also have Keith, who's a regular, Copa Catania, who's also another regular. So there's a few of our cohort here. Guys, spread the word. Please tell people we're online. Do your own little post about it if you can. It only takes a couple of minutes. And also we have Ali tuning in, who's Postmaster 5, who definitely isn't based on Alan Bates, possibly.
Hello.
Over to you.
Yeah, no, well, as I say, thanks for having me. So I am the assistant stage manager. I'm very honoured to be part of such an important play. I actually met Lance at a networking night at the venue that we were actually going to be hosting this play. I am a theatre graduate. I've been involved with plays, nothing of this importance though, I would say. And yeah, I'm very happy to be a part of it, and especially for such an important subject.
So this will be important, I think, particularly for our guests. How much did you know, if anything, about the post office scandal before you met me?
I knew of it. I didn't have, really embarrassingly, any clue about the magnitude of it.
So let's go back. Let's go back to that time. When you say you knew of it, how did you know of it? What did you know? What was your perception? Did you think it was all done and dusted? What did you think had happened before you became educated on the subject?
So I knew about the public inquiry that's currently going on, but even then, I say I knew about it. I knew of it, So I sort of very much knew the backbones, and I knew that there was a sort of tech system that had resulted in some unfair convictions. However, it wasn't before speaking to you at that night where you sort of mentioned it, and I did some reading, and I sort of really realised the depth of the whole thing, and how far back it goes, and how many people were affected.
So your knowledge of it was fairly limited,
peripheral,
and that came from what? Occasional news stories, newspapers.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
The stuff you came across, you hadn't actively researched.
No,
this is just what you saw. Okay.
Yeah.
And was your view that it was a travesty that had taken place, but it was sorted? Again, I'm talking about prior to being involved in the show.
I think, to be totally honest, I didn't know enough to have an opinion on it either way.
Okay.
I knew about the miscarriage of justice, but I didn't really necessarily know more than that.
Okay. Well, Ros, thanks for taking time out of your Saturday night. I know you've got a group of friends in another room who are playing Monopoly until you're available to host.
Hopefully listening in.
Until they're available to host the evening. You should be shouting at them to sign in. I want to see
sent them the link.
Watching. Okay, well, look, I'm going to bring in our guest now. Mark Kelly's done quite a good intro here for me. Her story, and I'm assuming he's talking about my guest. It's one of the reasons I decided to take the risk, i.e., if the High Court was lost, they would probably have gone after me, since my agreement with them would have been void. He's talking about the legal agreement he made with the post office when he agreed not to disclose the bug that he found, so they wouldn't come after him for the money that he owed. And I mean, that's just goes to show the lengths that Post Office Limited would go. Well, without any further ado, yes, and Mark was talking about Seema Misra. Here she is, former sub postmaster and identical lookalike to my own local postmaster, Seema Misra. Seema, thanks for coming. I only got to meet you after the show had been on last year, and your husband as well. I'm so sorry. And please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Seema Misra. Thank you very much for having us. We're privileged. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dave.
He's going to have to lean a bit closer to the microphone when you speak.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Dave. Full name is
Okay, great. Well, I think we got it that your name's Dave, effectively, and is often the case. I think that the wife is always going to do all the talking where tonight is concerned. So I have to tell you that the where I used to live in Highgate, just off of Archway Road, there was a post office run by a lady, and that lady was the spitting image of you, at least in my head. I hadn't seen her for many years, but in my head, when I saw you in a newspaper, I thought that's the woman who used to run my post office. And that was the whole reason that I took an interest in the story and read the rest of the copy. And I remember reading through it and I was thinking, this doesn't sound like the woman that used to run my post office. I'm pretty sure she wouldn't have been able to get away with stealing thousands of pounds worth of money. Apart from that, they didn't even do enough trade through the doors to have that amount of money in the post office in the first place. And that was what made me start following the story. I realized pretty soon after that actually that it wasn't, you were not her, because then I realized it was like West Byfleet and wherever it was. But that was it. My interest in the story was there, and then I followed it ever since. I think. So, do you want to, Seema? Do you want to maybe just give those people watching, tuning in, a bit of an overview of what happened to you? You don't have to tell us everything, but give us an overview. You took over a post office branch as a business opportunity, like many other sub postmasters. Transactions started going awry. Pretty soon, you had a big deficit of money. How much money are we talking about?
The shortfall they made. So basically, back in 2005, we bought a whole business. So it's like a 3-counter post office and a huge shop. It was a really good opportunity. We thought we were going into, we invested all our money and everything. We were very happy. But very first day, there was a shortfall. So on the
very first day.
Very first day.
How much was that on the first day?
It was under £100, around about £80 or something.
Okay.
And in front of the trainer. So for first 2 weeks, I had a trainer. And in the evening, he said, "Oh, you just." He was so sort of careless. He said, "Oh, you just had an audit yesterday. It's never penny to penny." Exact wording. And I was thinking, okay, this is first time running a post office, but why would it be penny to penny? So money going in, money going out, and all that. But he said, no, make sure the tills are always right. So it's mean I had to go to the shop floor, get money from there, and put it into the till. And it happened second day. He said, oh, on Wednesday, when you balance up, it will be fine. Then you can take your money out. I was thinking, like in the meantime, it's me now, I have to put my money in. And he said yes. So on Wednesday, it didn't balance up and everything. Again, the next week, another trainer came in. I mentioned that everything to him. He was shocked. He was shocked. And he said, okay, let's have a look. So he'd been there whole week. And then again on Wednesday, there was a shortfall. And he said, like, I've been watching you. Everything is doing correctly and all that. There shouldn't be a shortfall. He called helpline and mentioned that he's a trainer and he's been watching us and we're doing all the transaction correctly, but there's a shortfall. They asked him to do a procedure and then figure doubled up. The trainer, not to meet the trainer. And he was shocked. He said, like, he couldn't stay more, but keep this number and all that. Just keep us informed. Keep you informed. And then when I spoke to my area manager, or she said, like, sometime there's an error notice. It can take a while to come back. In the meantime, but make sure tills are good. This means I have to put money in. Anyways, that long story short, it didn't happen. Within 3 months' time, I said to them, I can't run post office like that. So can you please come and sort this out? I didn't get any error notice in my favor. Yeah, putting money in every day. And what they said, okay, we'll get the audit done. I said, well, do whatever need doing, but get this sorted. Auditor came in. I was so happy that it will be all sorted. But guess what? They came in. They, despite of me putting in money in every day, they made a shortfall of around about just under £4,000. Not just
Wow.
Not just that, what they did, they said, okay, that's fine. Let me my area manager. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say any names or all that. He said,
Well, I mean, you can. These are factual things. So I mean, you
yeah.
can say
And
you
he
can say
spoke to
names if you
Elaine.
want. It's not.
Yeah,
Only if it's untrue. If it's not true,
yeah, yeah,
if
yeah.
it's true, then I don't see the problem.
He spoke to Elaine Rage and they said, okay, this time she agreed to take this money out of my salary, but he gave me warning. You know what they like, auditor? They're like a mafia. They're like, I'm tall. But he's taller than me. He's like taller than me
Right.
and very big. And he looked down at me. He said, Mrs. Mishra, anytime you're 500 pounds short, we'll take the post office away. And I was shocked, I said, they're supposed to sort the issue out. They're
Yeah.
giving me a warning. So it been a mess. It been a mess. Then after that, I went back to them. I said, okay. And another word they said, Mrs. Mishra, we have so many post office. My area manager, we have Elaine Rich said, we have so many post office. They're doing fine. It's just your post office you're having issue with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder.
Bonkers.
I wonder. I don't know if she's going to get called before the public inquiry. I think probably not, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Another person lying. I mean, it's criminal. So that was all like in the first few weeks. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, shortfall from very first day. And the within 3 months time, the auditor came in. That was shortfall of under £4,000.
So between you taking over the branch and the point where they came in and they closed the branch and you were dismissed or suspended effectively, how long was that?
I was suspended in January 2008.
So okay, and you took it over 2005.
2005.
So in that 3-year period, how much money went missing that you couldn't account for, that you personally then had to compensate out of your own pocket?
So to be honest, like, first I was just like, when they said I'm the only one, I was like there till like 2, 3 in the morning, going through whatever records we have,
Yeah,
trying to put the balance in and all that. We done that. But in the end, we were so mad. I was just like, I was losing it. The way we were working, we had a huge shop, just under 3,000 square foot shop. So
Wow.
the shop taking was good. So whatever money we needed for the shop for the running for the whole week, that was going into the bank account, and rest even without counting, I was just throwing in the post office.
Gosh.
So I mean, in that time period, you must have put over 100,000. I would have thought.
More than that, yeah. And they, on top of that, after having deduction from my salary, so there was a first one, there was like just under £4,000, which they took it out of my salary. Then another error notice came, which was in thousands as well, 22,000 for the lottery errors and all that. They deducted that from my salary. On top of that, we're putting money in. While doing all that, we never compromises with the business. We took this post office salary, like services providing to the customers and everything. I've been
Yeah.
awarded I've been awarded Crown Your Colleague Award as well, because the efficiency, the services were increasing.
Right. Okay. So, despite all of that, you were still running an effective business and you were increasing the business. But obviously, the strain on the two of you, and I read about it in more detail in Nick Wallace's book, must have been incredible. Must have impacted your health, and you must have been second guessing whether your staff were stealing. All of those kinds of scenarios must have gone through your head. I mean, is there anything specific that you might want to recall from that time? I'm not talking about when you went to prison. I'm thinking before that.
Yeah, as we've been told, they made me feel like I'm the dumbest person on this planet. They said, because they said they have so many post office, they're doing fine. It's just I'm having issue. My eldest son was only like 6, 7 year old, five, that time. I used to like make a bed for him behind the till, and we used to like sit there on the floor and see. It was nightmare. It was nightmare. It's just no support from them. I was on the shared counter, like all three counters. They were having a shared for us to start with. When they said, are we doing some errors and all that, I said, okay, let's do individual tills. So at least we will know which staff members not like struggling, so we can provide them more training. And guess what? He said, Mrs. Mishra, if you do that, it'll be more work for you. I said, I'm the one who's losing money, so I need to find out. I said, okay, let's go ahead. No support from the post office at all. Even I asked for the support. I mentioned, can you put me through some training in the post office where they're working on individual tills? See, they said, no, we can't do that. So it was a nightmare. And after that, the figures, they just double, tripled.
I mean, it beggars belief that actually the people in charge took what should have been a profitable business for the government, because I mean, although they've been trying to get rid of post offices for years by closing them left and right, they've been proved time and again that they're an invaluable resource for the community. I still go to mine to buy stamps. I still go to mine to get padded envelopes. I occasionally go to buy a lottery ticket and then get disappointed when I walk back home and realize I haven't won anything, or I've won £5, which I paid for the ticket. But we all go there for something, and so they're kind of community hubs, really. I can't see them ever being dispensed with entirely. We're always going to need stamps. We're always going to want to. Some people will always want to send physical gifts or physical postcards. There are some things that are never going to go online. So you've got people in positions of power. I don't want to use the term sycophants, but no other word is coming to mind. Roz may think of something in a second. Who have been appointed to jobs through friends. I mean, Alice Perkins, her husband is Jack Straw. Just saying. These are well-paid jobs, and these are people who are running a business that should be profitable for the government. And when a problem started occurring, their solution was to run around like a load of headless chickens, blame the people that were not responsible. It feels to me like maybe there was a mechanism within that was, I don't know whether there was a mechanism within that saw an opportunity to pull money off of the postmasters to then try, and it's kind of like robbing Peter to pay Paul, except Peter's going to go to prison. And he isn't going to get to work for Paul anymore. So I think what I'm driving at here is there was a massive lack of long-term foresight in terms of how this problem was dealt with. And it's really not rocket science that if you're going to try and fix a problem by covering up bugs and then blaming the people for those bugs mistakes, and these are systemic issues in computer software that wasn't properly tested in the first place. This is going to be a long-term problem that's going to constantly undermine your business and is going to get bigger and bigger as time goes on. I don't understand why these people didn't actually see that that was going to be a problem for them down the road. And now, of course, it is. And I think these people have got to be held accountable. I mean, the word accounts is in our title of our show, and it's a very much a double meaning, false accounts, because these people gave false accounts about what you did. Your software produced false accounts about your branches. And I mean, obviously what happened to you is particularly appalling. So maybe let's touch on that. So after all of these things that you went through, at one stage you were arrested and you went to court. I've read the details of that. I have to say that I feel that race played a part in your conviction. From what I've read,
I wasn't arrested. So the post office had their own investigation team. They came home. They searched everything. Not the police officer, the post office investigation officer.
Yeah, their whole private security firm, effectively.
Yeah, and because I didn't have anything to hide. Yeah, I didn't have anything to hide. So like we cooperate with them. They wanted to look at access to our accounts, to the house. They searched everything, kids' room and all that, There was nobody to find because there was no money at home, But till even then, I didn't knew there's a, it's not just me. It's only a day before my first trial. Me and they've been sitting down and they're like, I said to them, okay, they think I'm very dumb, but I can't be that mad that somebody asked me, say, £100, I give them £10,000. So, there must be something, I don't know, for some reason. Then, just a night before my trial, we came across a Computer Weekly article through another Subpostmaster, Joe Hamilton. And then I said, see, I wasn't mad. So there are so many others as well. So since then, we've been fighting. It took them 2 years. We had so many hearings. It's been adjourned and all that. And they've been trying to hide the document. They were trying to hide all the evidence behind the scene and everything, which we didn't knew that time. So
yes. So, I mean, in terms of what happened to you personally, we'll come on to shredding of documents in a minute. You went to prison for how long?
I was in there for 15. My sentence was 15 months. I was in there for 4 months, and then I was released on a tag.
So you had an ankle tag on, and you discovered you were pregnant. I think, like literally, either the day you were being sentenced or around that time.
Yeah, during just by the judgment, just before the baby been trying for last 10 years, decided to come during my trial. So yeah, when the trial was going on, just before the judgment, you found out I'm pregnant.
Can I just say, oh, sorry.
Go, Roz, please.
I mean, it probably doesn't really count for much, Seema, but I just want to say that I'm so sorry that this happened to you. It really is beggars belief, doesn't it? It makes me so angry.
No, and even like if it feels so untrue. If it didn't happen to me, we never thought like this thing can happen in a developed country.
There's a postmaster that's 50% based on you. And I know you haven't seen the play, and I want you to, I'm going to read out part of one of her speeches. And it's the speech that she says just before she goes to prison. Now, I consider myself, I don't want to blow my own trumpet here, but one of my skill sets is that once I become emotionally connected with a story, I find it quite easy to slip into the shoes of the different people in that story and then write their perspective from those shoes. So I guess that's the hallmarks of a writer. And so with sorry, this is the speech at the beginning of Act 2, isn't it? My apologies. I was looking for it, I couldn't find it, and then I remembered where it was. So I hadn't met you, of course. I'd read interviews and things, but the speech goes like this, and I want you to tell me afterwards how close you feel I got to the sentiments of maybe what you would have liked to have told people about this moment, if that's okay. On the final day of my court case, standing in the dock, I was terrified. The prosecution stated in the summary that any problems with the horizon would surely be obvious for a sub-postmaster to spot. Really? We were never taught how to spot problems, so how would I know how to do that? I didn't build the bloody thing. My lawyer fought a good fight, but the post office wouldn't provide the transaction logs from Horizon because they said it was too expensive to do so. So it was up to us to prove Horizon wasn't working. Beyond the Horizon data, there was no other evidence of theft offered in my case. You know why? Because they couldn't find any. That's why. The judge still sentenced me to 15 months. As they led me out of the court, I saw the smug faces of the post office legal team already celebrating. My conviction gave them proof that Horizon was blameless. I exchanged one last glance with my distraught husband, sharing a look that we'd only give each other in our darkest moments. We knew our love for each other was all we had to keep us going. The post office had taken everything from us, but I knew for the sake of my unborn child, I had to survive this. So that was what I got from hearing your story, and that became, and that character's not totally based on you; it's you and some other people, but that it's the character in our play that goes to prison. Do you think that does you justice?
Yeah, definitely. So, you know,
I can't
the
tell you how
way
pleased I am to hear that. But
that,
good,
yeah,
good.
you
Okay,
explained
well,
so well.
wait till you hear the actress read it, who's playing that character, Miriam, because she's absolutely first class, and
Brilliant.
she's gonna. That was the male version, but you're gonna get a much better version. Yeah, when I read that, when I read what had happened to you, I was so angry. And that was actually the reason I read that speech out, is because that was the very first speech I wrote for the play ever. And originally, when the play started, it was about 2 women in prison, and one of the women was based on you. And, you know, and the other woman, we weren't really sure whether she had committed a crime or not. And she was nothing to do with the post office. And I mean, that was quite a nice little play on its own. But then when the scale of the thing started, I just believed you were innocent. I didn't actually know that the problem was systemic. I just believed you were innocent. So when I realized that the scale of the play was the problem was so much bigger, I thought, well, that's not really that sort of two-handed play isn't really going to do the story justice. So just to let you know, Roz, among other things, apart from doing assistant stage manager and replicating the theatre tomorrow with white masking tape and many other things, she also plays the Horizon trainer in the play, who's normally played by Maggie Robson, who unfortunately is ill with COVID at the moment. And you talked about the Horizon trainers earlier. Is it fair to say they were pretty useless?
Yes, they were only one second one. You know, as I mentioned, he was a bit shocked why having a shortfall. Probably he was new. He didn't knew what was happening. Other didn't care.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, that's interesting. And
what you
did you only meet that trainer one time?
Yeah, both of them one time only. I think they want to say something.
Yes, please.
Just want to say something. One thing, maybe so many people they're not aware, and might be it's very good for your play as well.
Yeah.
The day of judgment in the Guildford Crown Court. It's a very funny statement from the judge itself. The time he's giving a sentence to Seema, his statement was, there is no evidence against her. There is no witness against her. There is no facts against her that prove she is guilty.
Right.
But again, they send my wife in a prison. Is this a democracy or are we living in a dictatorship here?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I have to say that I feel as if, and I'm guessing, but I have to say, if you had been a middle class white woman, I wonder if that sentence would have been the same. Now, was that verdict passed down by the jury or the judge?
By jury.
Or the verdict by the jury and the sentence by the judge, is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So it was the jury that did the verdict. Was your legal team, I say legal team, I think you had a person working part-time effectively. Were they not able to choose between judge and jury? Was that not a choice?
I don't know. No, it's the
I'm
jury.
sure we don't have a choice that time. Our
Move the microphone to Dave's chops. There we go.
So on that day, our solicitor Easy Hogg, she did ask us that all the juries are white from white community. Do you want to change the jury? And what we replied to her that we can't discriminate like this, and we believe in the community which is took by the court.
Right.
And we stick with the same community.
Damn. Yeah.
And we felt like, because you're not going to believe that the paperwork given to jury, it says on the top, Queen versus Seema Misra.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that. If we knew that this kind of paperwork given to them, definitely then we can say that, if I'm Indian, and anything against my king versus foreigner, I'm going to support my king. Whatever happened. They use psychological impact on the jury.
That's an I never even thought of it like that. That's a very interesting perspective. For anyone just joining us, by the way, because I can see the viewing numbers keep jumping up and down. We're interviewing Seema Misra and her husband, former sub-postmasters, ran a very successful business, was wrongly prosecuted by Post Office Limited, wrongly given a criminal conviction, sent to prison, lost all their life savings, lost their home at one point, I believe, and are part of the 555 group of sub-postmasters who took Post Office Limited to court and won. I think we've got some questions in the chat, but I'm going to throw to Roz again. Do you have any questions, particularly around the Horizon Trainer, which is a role you're playing, of course?
Yeah, no, I was surprised to hear sort of what you were saying about the second one being slightly more useful, but I say that with sort of caveat that not by much. But I guess, I don't know, what really struck me is the fact that it must be so alienating and lonely to be made to feel like it's only you experiencing this problem and sort of having just no support group, and in being part of a company, thousands and thousands of branches, and yet you're the only one, and to just know that there's no support. I can imagine it's only horrendous.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Would you have any? Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say, did you call the helpline, the hell line, as we call it in the play?
Yeah, very often, very, very often. They called it so many times. Oh.
Did you ever speak to anyone who you felt was, I want to be balanced here, did you ever speak to anyone who you felt was doing their best to help you, even though maybe they couldn't?
Not I can recall. I remember, been holding for such a long time. They used to ask questions, then put it on hold, and come back. It was like, as you mentioned, we called it helpline, but it was a hell line.
One thing,
one
thing I want to add. It's a very interesting thing. Everybody should know this.
Yeah.
In the court, when we having a court trial going on, so we want to prove our side that we are honest. So court want to know, is there any evidence that you didn't took the money? I say yes. Let's call our trainer who came on that very first day when they start doing training to us.
Yeah.
Right. What post office says that These name of trainer, they never employ by post office, right?
Wow.
So okay, fine. Yeah, yes, that's what we call them mafia. They are a
Well,
mafia.
well, if they said that, that's interesting, because if they
Yeah,
said
that's what
that,
it says. They did contempt of court. They're still out and moving around with their family. Paul Bennell lie in the parliament, contempt of parliament. She's still moving around, like, with the fun with the family. And on
yeah,
top of that, when they decline, these trainer never come in our branch.
yeah.
Okay, we said fine, fantastic. Let's call our Tomiko, our area manager.
So
She said,
the trainer that you're talking about, the one who the post office said they didn't employ, never came there. Do you know their name? Can you tell us their name?
one is Junaid, second is Michael.
So Jermaine Michael is the full name.
Now, Junaid is the first trainer,
Oh,
and
do you
the
know
Michael.
do you know their
Michael is
full
second.
do you know their full name or just their
No,
first name?
no, only first name.
That's a shame. We could have gone on LinkedIn right now and see if we could have found them, which would have been
And then when we ask how about our area manager, because we keep telling her everything,
yeah.
and so we don't know where she is.
And that's interesting. Maybe they got fired. And who was the area manager again?
Springer.
Give me that name again.
Tomiko Sprinkle.
Springer.
Yeah.
Tamika.
And
You
okay,
say
after that,
Tamika Springer.
Tomiko, TH, Tomiko. Tomika.
Okay, Ali, you're going to have to write that in the comment section for me.
I'm going to comment.
Yeah.
Okay, after that, when we give up everything, we had a last evidence to show them in a court. We said, let's call our telephone conversation.
Yeah.
You know what? They wiped out the telephone conversation for that day. When Michael called them.
Right.
The amount of work they're putting in to not help is just astounding.
Yeah. That shows, like, you've been raided by police. You shredded all your evidence and documents and everything. Who does like this?
Yeah. Criminals.
So
criminals.
One of our actors, Ali, while we're on this good time to bring this up, can I ask a question of Seema and Dave? Did you feel at any time during this whole ordeal you were treated differently due to prejudice because of your race, culture, accent? Well, I think we covered that where the court was concerned. What about within the helpline and the post office hierarchy itself? Did you experience any racism there, do you think?
When I was sent away, Dave got beaten up by local community.
Dave did?
Yeah, he got beaten up.
In West Byfleet?
3 times.
In West Byfleet?
Yeah. He been called names, and asked to go back in your own country.
I mean, when you say beaten up, do you mean literally physically assaulted? And were the police called, and did they do anything?
No.
Take the mic, Dave. Put the microphone close to your. Sorry, thank you.
No, I didn't call police with the 2 reasons, because I have to left my elder son on his home at home, me to go out at night working as a taxi driver. I don't want somebody attacking on my son.
Yeah.
So I want to basically keep quiet myself. So when Seema came back on the tag, I've been beaten up that time as well. So what I thought, she's pregnant. I don't want somebody harming my wife or my kid. So we moved from West Byfleet to Shearwater.
Yeah.
And this is what we get reward. When we be saving, sir, there's an elderly man coming to the post office with the £10,000. He was victim of a scam. He was about to lose £10,000. If we are really criminal, we save his £10,000. We call police. We will take him to the bank, and we make sure the bank will be very careful to release him a big amount of money.
Right.
We've done such a good thing with the community, and people didn't realize, at least don't beat this person up, might be done something wrong, because a big company, I can understand. Because even if I put my feet in their shoes, I can say, man, why this big company want to, spoil our life, I can understand the way they've been thinking. But it's very inhuman, to beating me up like a piece of shit.
Well, I mean, okay, so did the police arrest any of those people or ever do anything?
I never make a police complaint, Nelson, because of I'm concerned about my son life, because
Yeah.
he's living at home on his own when I'm working as a taxi driver outside.
Okay, but yeah, but I got that you made a complaint, but did they do anything? I guess is.
I know I didn't make complaint.
Oh, you didn't.
I never, I never
Sorry, I
make complaint
misunderstood.
because
So
I have to go out at night, sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, my
right,
son,
and you were worried about. You would worry that that would make the situation worse, is what you're saying. I think.
they might attack on my son. They might,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Okay.
Can
Okay.
I ask a question?
Yes. Jump in, Ross.
Was the sort of, the fact that your wife Seema, you were currently dealing with such a, the injustice of the system in your own way, was that sort of a factor of why you didn't report it, because you were seeing how little they did to help Seema?
well, there is so many psychological impact on me. Basically, I was concerned for safety at the time, and there is something happening in the while she was in a prison. Uh,
Yeah.
the doctor in the prison,
Yeah.
he really misbehaved my wife very badly, and she was crying basically over the phone when she was talking to me, and I'm making a complaint against this doctor, and prison not taking my complaint, right?
Yeah.
So I called police to complain on police. Basically, police say we can't take complaint against prison. And then I said, fine, they're not taking my complaint, you're not taking my complaint. So I called prison. I said, I'm going to kill myself in front of a prison if you harm my wife or my young baby.
Wow. Yeah.
And what happened? Very same day in the evening, police came to my house. And what they said to me, you do this thing one more time, we'll take your kid away from you, my elder son.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
So
Wow.
there is no help.
No.
God.
There is no help.
Well, there is now. In the form of a tiny theatre company with no funding, but we're here. I mean, I've been through some things in my life, particularly in the last 3 years, and I think when I have moments where I get upset, and I do have those moments, and it's difficult actually to hide them from my cast while we're doing the show, because it's a very emotional show, so it brings these things to the top of your throat, but you can't afford to get upset when you're working. You can't bring that stuff into the room, and I make sure I don't do that. But one of the things that I'm able to draw on for strength is that whenever I think I've been through something really bad, and some of these things are really bad, I always remind myself that someone else has had it worse than I have. And your story is a case in point about that. I mean, I have to say to you both, while I have you here, not only is it an honor to meet you both, I remember, Dave, you gave me a massive hug when we met, which was really lovely. I cherish that. When my mother passed away, she had cancer, and I went up to her and I saw her in the hospice for the last time, and I said, how am I going to cope with when you've gone? How am I going to cope? Because I was very close to my mother. And her last words to me were, you're so damn tough. You don't know how tough you are. And she was right about that. And I think the two of you are so damn tough. And the fact that your marriage has survived as well, you see, because for me, what I've said to the actress playing the character, who I say is the character based on the two Seemas, and Seema Cameron, who of course you've met as well. We've got a lovely photo of the three of us together. She's the other character, and I've said to Miriam, your story, what the difference between your story and the other Postmaster story, in our play at least, is your story is a love story, and it's a love story about two people who go through hell and back, but in the end they triumph. They survive. They get through it. That's you. That's the two of you. And I can't tell you how immensely proud you should be of each other, that not only your marriage has survived, but you stood up to these bastards, and I'll call them that because that's who they are. and that you've come out on the other side. And I said something similar to Mark Kelly. It amazes me, you know, when they do the honours list and they give out these OBEs and things, all the sub postmasters that are part of the 555 should damn well be on that list. Maybe we should start our own honours list for, you know, people that do real deeds of meaning. You'd be the first. You'd be on the list for people I would put on it. And I think also the fact that you're able to come on here and talk about it. Obviously, the anger is there still, but that you're still able to come on and talk about it and with some degree of sanity is nothing short of amazing. And again, that goes back to what my mum said. You guys must be so damn tough, you know. So I would keep that at the forefront, because I know this journey's not over for you yet. We're still in the road to, I know you've had some compensation, I guess, as part of the 555, but nowhere near what you deserve. Cope has just said, Lance just hit me right in the feels. I think that's a compliment. I'll take it as one. Yeah, it's not finished yet. And we talk about the compensation thing in the play. And I mean, one of the last messages of the play is the problem with the public perception is that this is all finished. It's not. And we have whistleblowers involved in the post office talking to us even now, telling us that there's loads of problems still with Horizon. I've got another person who's fairly high up in the police telling me about the trials of Fujitsu with the police. I don't know if you know that, but they've been given the job of running the police computer system for the entire network of the Metropolitan Police in the UK. Insane. The whole lot. That's insanity. Why would you give these people that job? Give it to bloody IBM or somebody else, anybody else. Don't give it to Fujitsu. And they've done trials and they're already having massive problems. These are criminal records we're talking about. You don't want to be messing up those. So I just, you know, it's like, this is what really annoys me, is that people don't learn and they keep making the same mistakes. That makes me very, very angry. So now that you're, I don't know whether to say you're through the worst of it, because I don't want to assume. I think Ali's just asked the question that I was going to ask. Are the 555 and Alan Bates still continuing the fight? I mean, where's that at? And I know you gave evidence at the public inquiry, but Alan Bates didn't. What's the story there? He at first he did. I think it was because it was to do with compensation not being addressed with the public inquiry, but that's changed now. So is there a change of attitude there among the 555 in terms of engaging with the public inquiry? Where's that at?
Not sure, but we are definitely still fighting, not just for ourselves, for everybody. Because, you know, the post office killed 61 people. It's not that 61 people died. They killed 61 people, and we want to put stop to that. So definitely the fight is still on.
61?
61 people died, killed by post office. Yeah,
we talk about some of those that committed suicide. The number for that in the play last year was 4. Do you know if that's gone up?
No, it's 4, but it would have been the 5th. I would have been the 5th one if I wasn't pregnant.
Yeah. I remember. Well, I'm sure your husband's very glad that you didn't do that and that he was able to facilitate the means.
Nancy, I would say not 61 people died, 61 people killed by post office.
Right.
That's what I would say. Sorry.
Wouldn't murdered be more accurate?
Of course, yeah.
Well, I have a feeling you're going to like the last message of our play then when you come and see it. Can you? We're jumping around in the timeline a bit, which is actually a line in our play. But can I take you back? Were you at the first meeting of the very early meeting? Were you at the first one, or what?
Yeah, like when we first met 555, only about 4 or 5 of us around the table. So
Yeah,
it was like us, Alan, Joe, and a couple of more people. From
yeah.
there, like thankfully, they've started the media awareness. From there, like more people joined us.
Because
Mm.
yeah, one of our characters is based on Joe and two other postmasters, Wendy Buffrey and Nicola Arch, and Joe are kind of all sandwiched into one character played by a very talented actress called Victoria Jeffrey. What do you remember about that day when the five postmasters? It was like a small village hall, right, with no heating and you know, a kettle and some biscuits. Could you take us back there a bit maybe and just talk to us about that a bit?
Yeah. So when we first of all meeting, just from the one you told, like the one meeting, just one another person was really like I was saying, like I was like thankful that I'm not mad. I wasn't mad. There's other
Yeah.
people as well. So from there, we knew that it's just 4 or 5 of us sitting here. There will be more people. We need to save more life. So because the reason being because the media presence wasn't that much. It was in
No.
the media and Computer Weekly, but we didn't knew about it. It wasn't in the front page or it wasn't in the like any of the magazine and all that prominent one. So they knew that like we need to make more and more people aware and save them that they are not the only one. So that's how from there to 555 or thousands now, thousands people.
What year was that? The first five you met? Do you remember what year that was?
2000, yeah, 2000, 2009, I think 2009 or 2000, end of 2008
Right.
or 2009, something like that.
It's funny to think back to when I first read about your story, and then of course it disappeared, and I was like, I wonder what happened with that. And I didn't hear anything. To think that you guys were having these kind of clandestine meetings in this hall somewhere, and I'm sure if I had been aware, I probably would have been there and said, right, how are we gonna get this into the public domain? Is Ali was asking if is Alan Bates still involved? I mean, we don't. He's a kind of a mercurial, elusive Aslan type figure that we hear a lot about, but we never see him. And Ali's asking because he's playing a character based on him in the play, and by that I mean you're going to see Alan Bates with a bigger beard than you've never seen him before. But yeah, can you tell us anything more about Alan's involvement now and how he feels about everything?
Not sure. I think Christopher replied already in the chat.
A little bit, but not
Yeah.
to any
Other than
great.
that, I don't know. Other than that, I don't know.
He's
That's what I
still
know.
leading the fight with the fortnightly meetings with the Department of Business and Freeth and Howe and Co. are the solicitors,
Yeah.
and the advisory board. What's the advisory board? Do you know what the advisory board is? Or maybe Christopher could add. Ali says he's playing the Netflix version of Alan Bates. So
he's doing an amazing job as well.
He is doing an amazing job.
Say.
Yeah, we had a completely different actor playing Postmaster 5. We won't call him Alan Bates because he's technically not Alan Bates. Last year, William, and now we have Ali, who couldn't look more different. But then also last year, Postmaster 4 was a woman with a Caribbean background, who was the isolated postmaster, culturally very different from everyone else. This year, that person is Scottish, but also isolated from everyone else by the fact that they're in Scotland, doesn't really hear about what's going on until the High Court trial. So through the 5 people that we have, there's technically 6 postmasters in the play. We kind of try and collectively give the audience an overview experience of the show. Do you have any questions for us? Because I'm the writer. Roz is pretty familiar with everything about the show. You got any questions for us?
No, thank you very much for doing it to make more and more people aware. What went wrong, what happened to all of us. It's not just like still there's so many people who doesn't know. And it's not just the post office. Like the main reason for three of us to fight for the second limb was we don't want any other company to stand up against ruins people's life.
Yeah.
Like that's the main thing. So like, just to keep the story alive, thank you very much for everything you're doing, Ross, like Ali, everybody. Thank you. We really appreciate.
I mean, same goes to you. Of thank you so much for sort of fighting this fight and getting the original story out there. And it's a real honour speaking to both of you.
Yeah, I mean, I've done quite a lot of plays of this sort of milieu, this kind of genre, but I've never tackled a subject that's quite as unique as this one. And I think it's it's more important in some ways, because I think we live in a time where we had an American president who was so flagrant about the way he took the law for granted and tried to get away with anything. And that's just Chris clarifying the advisory board there and their role. Thank you for that, Chris. And I feel that there was a time in the UK where that bled over to us a bit, and you had people in power who were thinking, well, the laws don't apply to us because we're in power. And it really feels like that's how the post office was run. Well, we're the post office. No. The law doesn't apply to us. We can send people to prison. We can cover up stuff. We can destroy documents. We can pay ourselves huge bonuses, and everybody else can F off. I mean, excuse my French, but that's really how this story has percolated to the surface with me. And I think that says everything that's wrong about the way our institutions are being run. And they're not being run in the way where the best interests of the people that they're there to serve are being put at the forefront. It wasn't being run for the primary benefit of not only the sub-postmasters, but I would say the customers too. And that's highlighted in the fact that when my local branch closed, who had, we'll call her Seema Mark II, was running it, the lady who looked a bit like you, obviously not as glamorous, but another version of you, your distant cousin. And I remember that she told me they were trying to close her. And sure enough, we got a letter through the door saying, there's branches are going to close. We want to hear your opinion. And I wrote back a very strongly worded message, letter. I'm quite good at writing strongly worded letters. Maybe I should become a writer one day. But anyway, saying this would be very inconvenient for me, and this is a valid local business, and I don't want to have to walk up the big hill to the other one. Thank you very much. And by the way, that was me when I was like 28 or something. I was a young man then. And I got a photocopied letter that I guess everybody got. Saying, oh, we've read everyone's concerns, and yes, taken everything into account. And the biggest concern with some people would have to walk further, but we're closing it. And I thought, why did you bother writing to us? Because you were going to close it anyway. You really didn't care. And that's all about saving money, which is about saving profit, which is not about serving the customer, which is not about growing the business. So, I just think it's been run by a group of very self-entitled, out of touch with reality people that really shouldn't be running this kind of business. And it clearly needs a complete overhaul, not just occasionally a new person coming in who's going to stay there for a couple of years and go, shit, this is a difficult job, I'm off. Which is, I think, is a fair assessment of what's been happening. Okay, well, look, we'll start to wrap things up. So I'll just pre-warn people in chat now. If you have any questions, chuck them at us before we say goodbye to our guests. Question to Lance: does the play go to the High Court or the inquiry? The answer to that question is yes. We cover the events in the High Court. We cover the High Court judgment. We don't cover the inquiry, but the public inquiry is mentioned. So the play is not a reconstruction of the public inquiry. While I'll give people a couple of minutes to ask any questions. So while they're going to do that, for anyone who hasn't seen it, I'll quickly show people what it's like to, when you haven't got a budget, to rehearse a play with 10 cast members and the production team of 3 in your kitchen. A little bit silly, Roz. What was that about?
It's a satire.
Well, it is a satire, so it does have its.
I thought I should also mention that part. You know,
I never thought I'd be writing a play about the post office that was going to have Muppets in it until I met Ian Henderson, and he changed that for me. But anyway, so just looking at the chat before we go, there's a lot of stuff about Christopher's spoken about the infected blood scandal. Mate, I had a friend who was impacted by that. They are now dead, sadly. That was the whole HIV in the blood banks going back to the 80s and 90s. I have thought about doing a play about that before. I've already done one play about HIV, so I won't be taking that on, but I am very educated on that subject. Mark Kelly, who I guess you guys know, thanks, Roz and Seema family, for your time tonight. Thank you, Mark. Mark was on with us last week. We are going to do a couple more of these. So Seema and Dave, we're going to be looking towards you to wring some other postmasters' arms and try and get them to come on here. We'd love to get Alan Bates on, but I bet he won't come on. But I'd love to get him on. Actually, we'd like to get him to come and see the play. I sent him an email when we were doing the play last year. It was about that long. And all the reasons why I was doing the play, why I wrote it, because I understand that he didn't know who I was. I was coming out of nowhere. We're taking on your story. You don't know if we're going to do it right or if our heart's in the right place. And we're going to do it 4 times in total this year alone. We know for sure. And it still doesn't have a budget yet. And I'll let you imagine what that means in terms of remuneration for us. So, we've got to believe in it to do that, put that kind of work in. It's a full-time job for me right now as well. Chris has said they paid the field advisors who later became auditors incentives per closure. Well, funny you should say that, Chris, because we have a whole scene about that in the play. So it would be good for you to see it, Chris. Do come. I think Chris is a former sub-postmaster as well. Is that right? I think he's part of the 555. Yeah. So the only reason I know is I was heavily connected to a few trainers and auditors. Well, just to let you know that the Outcast Creative is a big network of actors, writers and directors. It's global, actually. We've got members all over the world. It's not like thousands of us, but there's a few hundred. And 2 of our former members, one of them worked for Fujitsu in the Horizon, I guess you'd call fixing bugs department. So they gave us a whole load of inside stuff. And then one of our other members worked on the helpline for 3 months, and they quit their job because they found it so distressful, because they said they were trying to help the postmasters and they couldn't. And that person has also shown us some of the scripts that the inquiry has not been able to get their hands on yet. So those scripts are definitely out there. What they need to do is they need to start getting names and addresses of people that used to work for the helpline and find out who's got them, because some of them have still got them. I'm not going to do their work for them, but because otherwise people won't keep whistleblowing to us and giving us lots of tasty facts that we can put in the play. But we've had the Operation Sparrow. You know about Operation Sparrow, I assume. Well, we've had the unredacted minutes of all those meetings. We've seen all of those as well. So not the redacted version, the unredacted. And other stuff. The legal team wants to see those scripts. I've only been told about what was on them, Mark. I haven't got the actual evidence. Trust me, if I did have it, it would be going in a brown envelope to Hudgell's solicitors. But it is out there. It can be found. They just need to ask the right people. But I would suggest legally demanding a list of the former helpline employees and then contacting them one at a time until one of them furnishes the scripts. That would be a good way to go. Roz, any final questions for our guests?
Um, I guess one question I had is sort of mentioning your son. I think your eldest must be a similar age to me. Sort of how have they been through this ordeal? You know, how do they find it looking back?
So our eldest is 22-year-old now, and
Mm.
we didn't tell him till 2019 that this is what happened.
Wow.
So when I was taken away, it was his 10th birthday, and we didn't tell him. We told him, yes, I'm going to special hospital. He was approaching. We didn't know what to say, to be honest. We didn't know what to say. It's only in 2019 when he won the first case in High Court. Only then we mentioned that to him, and they're very, very proud.
Yeah, he must be so proud. Yeah.
So that was it, Ros.
Yeah, no, I think that's it from me. But thank you so much for joining us. And...
So, well, I think I'm going to leave the final word to our guests. If there's anything you just want to say to wrap up before we call it a night, yeah, please have the floor.
Thank you very much for having us. I'm looking forward to come there and meet everybody, to be honest. And thank you for making the awareness. We're really, really thankful. Thank you. And thanks for all the guests.
I will pass that on to the cast. Don't tell us what night you're coming. I know there's quite a few of you coming on the 4th of June. But we you know, we'll certainly be there in the bar waiting to see you. Mine's a Pinot Grigio, just to let you know. But I'm pretty sure that Postmaster 1 will want to give you a big hug. You may well get a group hug, so be ready for a huge bundle of actors storming through the bar to greet you. Yeah, and you might have to wait 5 minutes because some of them like to do their hair before they come out of the dressing room, you know. But we've already got news soon about us. The play's going to be on again for sure. We don't want to say too much about it now, but it's definitely going to be on again at a different theatre in London for another week very soon after the OSO. And then we also think it might be on again next year for 3 weeks. So we're gradually leapfrogging closer into the West End, which is the plan. We want to get it on in a West End venue, because if we can do that, then your message is going to go through the arts community like a lightning bolt that you just won't have experienced before. And that will get you so many allies on a much bigger level than me. And I think also the drama series that Chris has just mentioned, I've met the producers of that. That's coming out early 2024. I think that'll be a big help as well. Is anybody playing you in that, Seema? Do you know? Are you representing?
I'm not a part of that.
You're not a part of that.
I'm not in there, no.
No, okay. So they're not getting Catherine Zeta-Jones in to play you, or Harrison Ford to play Dave. No.
No.
I've heard he's free after Indiana Jones 5, so might be up for that. 4-part, 60-minute series. I think it's primarily told from the point of view of Alan Bates, I believe. And I know some of my actors actually auditioned for it because everybody was trying to get a part in it. Yeah, there's a bit of discussion going on there. So I don't think you couldn't put it in a feature film, Fritz. It's too big a story to put in a 2-hour movie. That would not work. Well, look, thank you so much, Seema and Dave, for coming in. Ros, thank you so much for taking part of your Saturday night off. My apologies to my good friend Sharon Sorrentino, whose dinner I had to cancel tonight, but she understands. And Zoe and her partner, who also were going to be there. Big thank you to all the cast of False Accounts, both the past productions and the one that we're about to do. You'll see me back on the channel next Tuesday. I'm doing a discussion, nothing to do with the post office, about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, with my good friend Matthew Holmes. We'll be talking all things movies. You know, I like to do that. And there's also going to be a couple more of these between now and when the show goes up. So remember, the show is opening in London on the 31st of May. Tickets are now 55% sold out for the run at that theatre. So if you haven't booked your tickets yet, you should. And please don't wait. Book them now, because the sooner it sells out, the better, because that's only going to help the message of both the show and the play itself. Thanks so much to the guys in chat. You've been awesome. Thank you, Copa, for popping in. Good friend of mine. Mark Kelly, of course, former sub-postmaster. Chris, former sub-postmaster. Ali, present sub-postmaster in a dramatic interpretation. And we'll see you all again real soon.
Yep, looking forward.